Hey, we're going to go over my picks and predictions for the UFC Fight Night Fiziev versus Gamrot. I'm going to go over some stats. I'm going to go over some just common sense. I'm going to give you guys who I think is going to win, how, and if you're into betting, I'll maybe tell you what bets are a good idea. I'm not going to go over every fight on the card. I'm just going to go over what I think are the more interesting fights. Some of them, there's a couple on here that kind of suck, to be honest. But we're going to go over the more interesting ones. And yeah, so I'm going to start toward the bottom of the card. I'll work my way up to the main event. So we're going to start with Muhammad Usman versus Jake Collier. Muhammad Usman, if you don't know, that's Kamaru Usman's younger but bigger brother. He's a heavyweight who's coming off of he came from The Ultimate Fighter, Nunes versus Pena. Jake Collier, he's heavyweight. He's been around for quite a while. He's been kind of a 50-50 fighter at heavyweight. He used to be a middleweight. He's blown up in size now. Now he fights at heavyweight. You might remember him for losing to Tom Aspinall. He was Tom Aspinall's debut. Jake Collier actually has pretty good hands. He has good boxing. He tends to wilt in fights, though. That happened in his fight against, I forget his name, Josh Barnett, I think. Is it Josh Barnett? I can scroll down. Barnett, the fat black guy that does spinning kicks. He lost to him because he wilted later in the fight. But he does have good power. Muhammad Usman's not good. He's just really strong for heavyweight, but he really just lays on top of his opponents. He doesn't have good striking. He has bad cardio. But I think I'm probably still going to pick him to lay on top of Jake Collier for this whole fight. This isn't a fight that I would bet on because I do think if Muhammad wins, it's going to be by laying on Collier the whole fight and maybe getting a TKO after Collier gets tired. I do think that there's a chance Collier could catch him with his hands, though, and just knock him out because Muhammad has been rocked. He got rocked a lot in his last fight against Junior Tafa. And so, yeah, I think Jake Collier has a good chance of getting it done early, but I'm going to go with Muhammad Usman by like a 29-28 decision. I think he'll lose the first round by getting hurt, but I think he'll win the second and third. The next fight is Tim Means versus Andre Fialho. This one I would bet on. Andre Fialho, for some reason, is a minus 200 favorite, and I don't think he should be. He's on a 3-fight losing skid. He's been knocked out 3 fights in a row now. He was knocked out. He was knocked out by Jake Matthews and Muslim Salikov and Joaquin Buckley. And Jake Matthews looked incredible in that fight. You gotta kind of cut him some slack for that one. Jake Matthews looked unbeatable in that night. Muslim Salikov, he's good, but he's not the best. Andre Fialho just showed to be kind of chinny in both his fights. And Joaquin Buckley's also really good. He got knocked out by a head kick. You can't really fault him for getting put unconscious from a head kick, but still, getting knocked out 3 times in a row, that doesn't make me trust your chin when you're going up against Tim Means. I think everybody knows Tim Means is a really good boxer. He has pretty decent power. He's tough. He has taken all damage. He's been in the game for a long time. He's got a lot more wear and tear than Andre Fialho, but I think I just trust him more. He has higher significant strikes landed per minute. He's got almost 5. Andre Fialho only has 3. He absorbs less than Fialho. Fialho takes more shots than he lands. He's more accurate. He's more active on the feet. I just trust him more. I think he's going to chin Fialho early. I would say Tim Means by knockout. I think you could probably make good money on that because he is a plus 155 underdog. So if you're a betting person, I would put money on Tim Means. Next fight is Brian Battle versus AJ Fletcher. I think the odds are pretty good on this one. Brian Battle is the favorite, but I think he's the obvious pick to win. AJ Fletcher just hasn't really looked that good in the UFC. He's lost 2 out of his 3 UFC fights. He doesn't seem to have anything too special about him. He's not a crazy good wrestler. He's not a crazy good striker. He doesn't have insane knockout power. He has submissions. But yeah, he's just kind of okay. And Brian Battle is looking pretty good. Brian Battle looked really good in his last fight, getting that quick KO over Gabe Green. And he lost to Renat Frekretinov, but we just figured out in Renat's last fight that he's kind of a savage. And he knocked out Takashi Sato, which isn't saying a lot because Sato doesn't do anything in his fights. But I would go with Brian Battle. I don't know if I bet on it because he is the favorite. He probably won't make much. But I do think he's a safe pick. The next fight is Bryce Mitchell versus Dan Ige. I think this is actually kind of a tough one to predict. I'm going to go with Bryce Mitchell. I don't trust Dan Ige's gas tank to hold up to Bryce Mitchell's like relentless takedowns. I do think Dan Ige has good power and he could chin him. And they have some similar wins. They both have a win over Edson Barboza, but not really because Mitchell, he dominated Barboza the whole fight, whereas Dan Ige, I think most people can agree, Dan Ige shouldn't have won the fight against Barboza. Or do I have that wrong? Yeah. Yeah, it was a split decision over Barboza. That's what I thought. And he won it, but most people don't think he should have won that. And if you watch the fight, you probably know. I think with Dan Ige, it's basically if you belong in the top 10, you're going to beat him. And if you don't, he will expose you. He, exposed Gavin Tucker. I shouldn't say exposed, but he stopped Gavin Tucker from getting into the rankings. He stopped Nate Landwehr most recently. But he doesn't seem to hold up well against guys that wrestle heavily. The examples there being his fight against Korean Zombie. Korean Zombie wrestled for a lot of that fight, and Danny Gay couldn't do anything. And then his fight against Movsar Evloev, similar thing. He got taken down and held down for most of the fight. He was schooled on the feet by Calvin Kattar. Danny Gay's good. I do think he beat Josh Emmett. He lost that fight, but I think it was a robbery. I think he should have won. But I don't know. He's definitely a better striker than Bryce Mitchell, but I think takedown threat will change that. I think Bryce Mitchell will be fine on the feet with the takedown threat. Bryce Mitchell did drop Edson Barboza. Edson Barboza is a much faster and scarier striker than Dan Ige. And Dan Ige just doesn't seem to have the best takedown defense. He gets taken down. He has 56%. That's not bad. But he doesn't handle it very good. And I do think that Bryce Mitchell is going to grind him out to a decision or potentially a submission. But I'm going to go with Bryce Mitchell by decision. I think he'll get it done. Okay. And the main event, which is the fight that most people care about, Rafael Fiziev versus Mateusz Gamrot. I'm picking the same guy that pretty much everybody else is picking. I'm picking Rafael Fiziev. I think Gamrot's really good, but I don't see how Gamrot can win this fight. Because he's not a better striker. Okay, I shouldn't say that. I do see how he could win the fight, but I don't think he will do it. So I think this is going to be a very similar fight to Fiziev versus RDA, if you've seen that fight. Fiziev, generally when he fights, he goes crazy. He's very scary in the first couple of rounds, and then he gets tired. And he's mostly fought 3-rounders. But he had a 5-rounder with RDA, and he paced himself a lot better, and he ended up finishing RDA in the 5th round. RDA was striking and trying to grapple quite a bit in that fight, and I think Fiziev knew that he was trying to grapple and he was trying to wear him out, and so Fiziev really took care of his gas tank, and he was careful in that fight, and he just waited for the right time, and it worked out really good for him. And I do think he's going to do that again in this fight. I think Mateusz Gamrot, at this point, he's a better fighter than RDA, but Mateusz gets hurt in every single one of his fights. He doesn't have the best chin. So I think he's going to get cracked by Fiziev quite a few times and hurt, and I think he will get finished in the 2nd round. I'm going to go with, Rafael Fiziev by knockout in the 2nd. I could see Mateusz getting a decision win, though. I could see if Fiziev isn't smart and he blows his wad in the first 2 rounds trying to finish Gamrot, and Gamrot survives because he's an animal and he does that. Just watch his fight with Jalen Turner. Gamrot's really tough, and he could survive those first 2 rounds and then maybe grind out a decision win by winning the next 3, or maybe a draw if he gets dropped in the first couple of rounds. And if Fiziev was to get a 10-8 early on, and then Gamrot getting the last 3, I could see that happening too. I don't know what the odds on a draw are. I'll check that. That's actually probably a reasonable thing to bet on if the odds are good. They don't have the odds up yet. Anyways, I would go with Fiziev by a finish. But if you're dead set on Gamrot, I would go by decision. I don't see Gamrot finishing Fiziev in any way whatsoever. So, yeah, that's the whole thing. I know it's not the best quality video. I'm just starting out. But, yeah, if you guys like the predictions or if you totally disagree, please let me know in the comments. If you could like the video, that'd be cool. If you dislike it, that's fine. If you could subscribe, I would really appreciate that. Leave a comment and tell me things I need to improve on, like speaking and getting a better camera setup. I just have my phone set up, but yeah, we'll see how this goes. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.